One of the Thai idioms for meditating is tam kwam pian, to make an effort. So this goes against the grain with a lot of Dhamma as is taught here in the West. I was reading an interview just today with a teacher saying that even after many years of practice, he every now and then catches himself striving. He has to remind himself that he's already there. There's no place to go. He's already where he has to go. Which is sad, because that's certainly not how the Buddha talked about his awakening. He said the two things that led to awakening were, one, the attitude that even if his flesh had to dry out, there's nothing left but skin and bones, he still wouldn't have a lapse in his efforts. That was one. The other was not resting satisfied, even with his skillful qualities, to say nothing of unskillful qualities in the mind. He didn't practice radical acceptance. If something was unskillful, he would try to get rid of it. If something was skillful, if he had done something skillful, he would take joy in that fact, but he wouldn't rest satisfied. He would try even harder till he could find the end of suffering, total end of suffering. So it's something that requires effort. The teacher who was being interviewed years back wrote a book, which he basically said there were two ways of approaching the practice. One is that we're going to create the goal through our efforts, which of course doesn't make sense. If you're trying to find the unfabricated, you can't fabricate it no matter how hard you try, or how hard you don't try. The alternative was to realize that the goal was already there. It was a matter of just relaxing into it. He presented these as the two alternatives that we face as we practice. And when you phrase it that way, you frame the issue that way, it's obvious that the second one makes more sense and is also the more attractive. But John Lee presents a third alternative. In his image, he says it's like seawater. There's fresh water in the seawater, but just letting the seawater sit is not going to get the fresh water separated. You have to boil the seawater. You have to distill it. It's only through the distilling that the salt and the water separate out. In the same way you have defilements in your mind. And it's going to take effort to get rid of them. That effort sometimes can be minimal. As the Buddha said, some of the causes of suffering go away simply when you look at them steadily. But even looking at them steadily requires some effort. Most of us are not very steady in the way we look at our minds. When we run against something that we'd rather not see, our glance veers off. You may have tried an experiment where you sit in a room, say you have the ledge of a window, and you try to run your eyes very steadily across the ledge. You begin to realize that your eyes jump. In the same way our mind jumps as we look at things. And because it jumps, we miss important details. But then again, there are the causes of suffering that don't go away even if you stare at them steadily. Those, the Buddha said, require that you exert a fabrication. In this case, it would be the three kinds of fabrication: bodily, verbal, mental. Bodily being the way you breathe in and out, verbal being the way you talk to yourself, what the Buddha defines as directed thought and evaluation. You pick a topic, you focus on the topic, and then you ask questions about it and come up with answers. And then there's mental fabrication, which are perceptions and feelings. Perceptions are the labels you put on things. They give them meaning. They identify what they are, what their meaning is, how important they are. And then feeling tones: pleasure, pain, neither pleasure nor pain. And these are things that we do fabricate. We even think our feelings just come at us ready-made, but they're not. There are potentials for pains, potentials for pleasure in the body and in the mind. But how we actually experience them is going to depend on how we prepare them. It's like food. You can fix your food in a way that it's really good or in a way that's pretty miserable. Same ingredients, but the product comes out differently. And so if you have, say, greed or aversion or anger coming in and taking over the mind, and they don't go away when you look at them steadily, then you have to look at how are you breathing. Especially under the influence of anger, our breathing tends to get irregular and very uncomfortable. All we can think about is how we want to get that anger out of our system. Then there's the way you talk to yourself. What are you saying to yourself about the anger? Either about the anger itself or about the object of the anger. You can talk about how what you're angry at really is wrong, and there are plenty of wrong things going on in the world right now. But is getting angry about them going to solve the problem? Part of the mind will say, yes, if you don't get angry, you're not going to do anything. But you have to think about it. Recognizing that something is wrong doesn't require that you get angry if you're going to do something about it. In fact, you have to put the anger aside if you're going to see things clearly, and also come up with a good response. So you learn to breathe in new ways, breathe easily and calmly through the anger, talk to yourself in different ways about the anger and the object of the anger. Then look at the perceptions you hold in mind, the images you have, the way you label things. You can change those. The feelings you focus on. Again, with the anger, you can breathe in ways that make it really miserable in the body, or you can breathe in ways that make it more calming and soothing. Then when you reconstruct the situation, then you look more calmly at what needs to be done. So there's an effort that needs to be done. We're not here just accepting things. Because a lot of things are pretty unacceptable. And particularly with the problem of suffering. If the Buddha had just accept suffering, he himself would have gone back to the palace. Never would have become a Buddha. If he accepted aging, illness, and death, he wouldn't have found the deathless. These are things that everybody says, well, you just got to put up with it. There's going to be aging in life, there's going to be illness, we can fight a little bit against it. You get some people who think that maybe they can find ways of becoming immortal by extending the life of the body. But the body is not going to cooperate. But there's a dimension that is deathless, that involves has nothing to do with the body at all, nothing to do with any of the six senses, but it is touched at the mind. That can be found. And the Buddha put forth a lot of effort to find it. All the acharyas talk about the effort that they had to put out. But they were amply rewarded. And the reward didn't come only at the end. If you're going to exert an effort, you have to learn how to delight in exerting an effort. So you can delight in the fact that we have the Dhamma that tells us that we do have the power to act. And through our efforts we can find the actions that lead to the end of action. And we can do it in a way that's honorable. You look at the things that are involved in the path, and they're all good things, honorable things. You're virtuous, you're honest, you're mindful. You develop your powers of concentration and discernment so you can see things clearly. These are all good things to be doing. You look at the things that other people are doing in the world right now to make themselves happy, and they're pretty miserable. So take joy in the fact that we have this Dhamma, and that you have the ability to abandon unskillful qualities and develop skillful ones. Learn how to delight in seclusion, the fact that you're able to get away and look at your own mind and deal with the problems that are here without being interfered with a lot of other unnecessary things. Delight in the fact that the goal that we're aiming at is harmless, involves no conflict. So it's not just a path that gives good things at the end. It saves the very best for the end, of course, but there are a lot of good things along the way. Things that are worth delighting in. So that whatever striving is involved is not too much of a burden. To whatever extent it is a burden, you make it one that's you're happy to bear. That way you can maintain the effort. You can distill the seawater inside your mind, and you can find where the fresh water is. And then you can enjoy it. In the meantime, enjoy setting up your distillery and learning about the process of how it works. Because it is fascinating, this path. It holds a lot of surprises along the way. As I was saying the other day, it's like the directions are for a trail, say, in Zion National Park. The directions of the trail will tell you where to go, where to place your feet. They don't tell you what you're going to see. They may say you're going to see this and that, but what you actually see is more than just the words. And you're not going for the trail, you're going for what you're going to see. And there's a lot to see along the way.